is a heavy and vulnerable conversation to have. This platform is a safe place for all individuals to come share their life's journeys of surviving grief without judgment.
I'd like to welcome you all to the QT Surviving Grief podcast. My name is Tiffany Ware, your podcast host, and today I have a very special guest. This lady is a powerhouse prayer warrior, an inspiration, and just overall a very motivational person. She's also very passionate about God, passionate about life, passionate about her family, her career, and I'm so excited to have on Miss Linde Ellerby today. Welcome, Miss Linde.
Thank you, Miss Tiffany. Thank you for the humbling and kind words. It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You are very, very welcome, Miss Linde. Okay, so I've known Miss Linde for quite some time. She actually attends church at Wayman Chapel AME with my mother. So I know her through there. We've also participated in different fitness programs in the past. So I have an icebreaker for you, Miss Linde. As you knew, Quinn was very always just full of fun. And so I always try to start my sessions off pretty light. So I have an icebreaker question. And so my question for you is, what is your favorite travel destination and why?
Oh, okay. Cool beans. Um, I absolutely enjoy going to Florida. But anywhere there's a beach. But I've gone
Yeah.
to quite a few different cities in Florida. And that's the main reason why I love
Hmm.
the water. I love the beach.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They
So
say,
peaceful.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. They say when you get around water, that's when God can speak to you most.
Mhm.
And it's like really revitalizing almost like going to a beach and, because this be in Tennessee, so we don't really get that type of weather, that type of peace. And so I like just listening to the waves. So I
Absolutely.
completely understand. That's
Absolutely.
beach is a fun thing to go to for sure.
It is.
Well, I appreciate it, Miss Lindy, indulging in that icebreaker question. So I want to get into who is Linde Ellerby. So I just want you to describe who you are, where you're from, just a little bit of background to let our audience know who you are.
Okay. Well, I was born in Oklahoma, but grew up in Tennessee. My parents met in the Job Corps program. My dad was
Okay.
from Oklahoma and my mom was from Tennessee. And so that's a bit of where I come from.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then background wise, childhood, because my parents ended their relationship while I was, very small, I grew
Mm-hmm.
up without my father around, but I saw him, every so many years briefly. I am
Okay.
the oldest of four children. I'm the only female, and my youngest two brothers are much like my children. So
Gotcha.
that'll probably make a little more sense later. But we have a very
Mm-hmm.
unique bond as siblings, and then as like mother son relationship, and I'm grateful for that. And then I do have two adult children, three
Mm-hmm.
grandchildren, and two great grandchildren.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. And I must
Nice.
admit that sometimes I forget that my two oldest grandchildren are my grandchildren and not my actual children. But yes, ma'am. And
Awesome.
yep, and for school wise, background there, graduated from Columbia Central High School. Then I graduated from a technical college in Nashville, which later became Jones Junior College. Then
Okay.
I graduated later in life from Columbia State Community College. And then I enrolled in Middle Tennessee State University. And less than a year there to go, and I would have secured my degree and licensure to be in education for
Mm-hmm.
the Tennessee. And then work wise, Miss Tiffany, I started working at the age of 15. Had
Okay.
the privilege of working government jobs and a few large corporation jobs. And then I landed a job at a corporation for a KFC. And I served there for
Uh,
17 and a half years.
wow.
The owner operated over 200 Kentucky Fried Chicken stores across 12 states. And so after leaving there, now I am a licensed financial strategist in several states. I'm working on covering all of the United States of America and getting into Canada and Puerto Rico.
Wow.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
are very well rounded, Miss
I
Lindy.
try to be. I try to be.
Yeah.
I try to be. And then, as far as like what, just something simple about me
Mhm.
is that I am positive energy. I
Mhm.
am positive energy, and I see myself as a connection specialist. I enjoy meeting people, traveling, and I have a passion for education and being instrumental in the lives of other people, especially youth and young adults. So that's Lindy.
Awesome. Yeah. I like that. I like how you tied it all up at the end because I feel like the last statement was everything you just gave us. You gave us like the resume of life and then, and then tied it all together. So I appreciate that, Lindy. I think it's important when people can know who we're talking to. And so that you definitely, that education field and youth, yeah, I can see you all over there, even the finance piece as well. So I'm so excited to have you on. So we're going to get into the meat of our conversation today. And I always like to start all of these off with asking people, do they remember the first time, like the very first time they experienced loss or grief?
Okay. So the very first time that I even remember a loss was, I may have only been 4 years old, Miss Tiffany, but
Mm-hmm.
I was in Oklahoma at the time with my mother, and she had gotten a phone call, and then she started crying. And of course, I wanted to know what was wrong. Why was she crying? And
Mm-hmm.
it was her um, grandmother that had passed away. And so, with that being said, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
of course, I cried because my mother was crying. So that's
Right.
like the very, very first remembrance that I have. And then the next one, I guess, for me would have been, I was a child, a teenager in high school, and I got pregnant. And my mother went and had to bury the baby while I was still in the hospital.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
So that would be the next biggest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, death that you experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's heavy, Lindy. That is. I mean, like you said, as a young child, seeing your mother with really not even understanding what's going on, but then for something so significant to happen when you're in high school, still a teenager, very much. That's a lot. That's a lot. But I appreciate you for sharing that because I think it's important when we can really connect, with people and share different stories. And I'm sure you'll get into some of that as we continue our conversation today.
Yes.
Um, but I know one thing we did talk about was your mother. We talked about Miss Linda Joyce Moore. And so I do want to take the opportunity for you to just honor her memory and honor her legacy right now and tell us who she was to you.
Yes. My mother was not prideful at all. She wasn't prideful at all. If she needed help, she asked for it.
Mhm.
She was a very easygoing person who loved laughter and making other people, smile. She would give you the shirt off her back if you needed it, and not think anything else about it. So very loving, very giving,
Mhm.
very family oriented. Nobody ever had to question, did she love them? That goes from friends to, family. You never had to question it because you always felt her love and she showed it. And so that's a little bit about Linda Joyce Moore. Just very caring, not prideful at all, very compassionate about people, and love to laugh and just love making other people happy as well.
Mhm. It sound everything you just described to me is what I know of you. So, a lot of those characteristics you definitely carry, Lindy, and your love and passion for people, for serving people, and being there, being present. So, yeah, you just described yourself kind of, and I didn't
So,
know her, but I see where her legacy definitely rubbed off on the person you are today, for sure, for
wow. Thank you,
sure.
Miss
Yes.
Tiffany. Thank
Yeah,
you so much.
yeah.
I never thought about it like that.
Uh-huh.
So I'm glad you actually, see that in me. I give God the glory for that because
Yeah.
she was very, very, instrumental in my life.
A special lady, special
Yeah.
lady. So I know we brought your mother up because I know she did pass away. Um, in that process of her passing away, was it a shocker? Was it something that she had going on medically, or how did that go for you when she did transition?
Oh, wow. Okay, so literally,
Mm-hmm.
I was physically in the process of moving back in to live with my mom. And so on this Friday night, she and I were talking on the phone, laughing and cutting up, and I was at home packing,
Mm-hmm.
me and my daughter. And so mom called and we're laughing and talking, and she wanted me to come and hang out with her. And I didn't, and I said I was gonna, stay and finish packing, so I can get out quickly, as quick as possible. Um, and so the last time we talked was like midnight that night on the phone. And she had never gone out before to this particular party that happens every year, once a year. And she decided she would go to that party. And so she went to that party. And the next day, I'm leaving my apartment to go put stuff in storage, and someone's honking their horn at me. And I just waved and kept going. Well,
Mm-hmm.
when I got back to the house, I had a card on the door. And so I called the number, and they told me that um, I needed to come to Pulaski to the hospital. And so I'm freaking out,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to tell them, I'm on my way. I give you permission to do anything you can do to help save her life. You have my permission. So anyway, I gathered up, my brothers and my children, and we went up there. And the whole time I'm still calling, trying to, tell them, do what you can do to save my mom's life.
Right, right.
So we get there to the hospital, and then they call us in a room and they say, unfortunately, your mother didn't make it. She's gone.
Mm,
And so, of course, whew, I just, collapsed down, and I'm crying and everything. And,
mm-hmm.
you know, uh, so long story short, on that part, my uh, oldest brother, he went
Okay.
in to actually do the identifying
Okay.
of her
Okay.
body. And so I'm sitting there and I'm crying and crying. And I remember so distinctly my daughter, who was 10 at the time, she was
Mm-hmm.
being so strong, and she just wiped the tears from my face and she said, Mama, everything's going to be okay.
Mm. Wow.
So that was that initial shock.
Shock. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a lot, Lindy. Talking to somebody, everything's fine one day, and then that next day you get that
Hours
type
later,
of news. Yeah, yeah.
hours
Hours
later
later.
that morning. Yeah,
You get that type of news, and it's like then you get there, you're probably thinking, oh, everything's gonna be okay. Just do what you gotta do to save her. And then you
right.
get there to get that type of news. That's a lot. And I'm
It
sure
was.
that took a
It was.
took a lot out of you. And you're the oldest. I'm thinking about that too now. You're the oldest child.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Ooh.
And Tiffany, even what you just said about being the oldest child, I think now that, my
Mhm.
mother was the oldest of five, and I was the oldest of four. And my
Mhm.
mom, I've heard all the stories all through life and then watched it and observed it. She did anything she could to, make sure her siblings were good.
I
She
see.
always looked out for them, and
Gotcha.
and no matter what they did, she was always there for them, good or bad. She was always there. Um,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
so yeah,
So so how old were you, Lindy, when that happened?
ooh, I wasn't 30 yet. I was in my
Okay.
20s.
Still
I,
young.
mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. I was in my 20s. And so again, yeah, not even 30 yet.
Mhm.
Um, never experienced, you know,
Yeah.
needing or having to be um the one now that's got to get some stuff done and this type of thing done. So I had experienced, loss of, my my grandmother, my papa, a good friend, and different things I had experienced loss, but nothing,
Nothing like
nothing
that.
compared, prepared me for
Mm-mm.
this.
When it's a shock like that, Lindy, I don't think anything can prepare you for it.
Mm-mm.
You know, you are completely blindsided by something like that. And let me ask you this: do you have any like unresolved feelings or questions that came about after her transition? Like, what happened, or what, just like the questions that go through your mind when it is something so tragic and so sudden. Like, this is not anything we can prepare ourselves for when we go through these type of things. So I'm just interested to know, do you now or currently, or did you at that time have any of those feelings, just wanting answers?
Right. Absolutely, I wanted answers. I mean, I had to be strong to get things done that need to get done because everyone's telling me what I need to do now, right?
Right,
And so
right.
a lot of it is a blur on a lot of the conversations, and a lot of it is so fresh as if it just happened, today or yesterday.
Wow.
And so I remember having people someone even called the house and said that they were had a lawyer, and this was really bizarre, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I had someone to call the house and say that they had a lawyer, an attorney that wanted to talk to me about that incident, car wreck that had happened
Mm-hmm.
with my mom, and that had said that it was a head-on collision. Well, it's Pulaski, okay?
Right. Right.
It's
Right.
Pulaski,
Mm-hmm.
and this was quite a few years ago. And so immediately after I've gotten the news and I've gotten back home to and grasping the situation and have to move forward, I'm
Yeah.
wondering, did they do everything they could to save my mom's life? You know,
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
she begging, for help? Was she crying? What was her state
Right.
um
Right.
in that crash while it, happened, and them showing up to get her? I mean, I had all kinds of questions, all kinds of questions. And it didn't help my grief
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
having all those questions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, those who know, and those who don't know. But yeah, um, Pulaski is known for, some organization that don't
Yeah.
quite like melanated people.
Yes, that's true.
And
That is
so
very true.
again, I was so concerned about that. And hearing this, like, why does an attorney, someone contacting me
Yeah.
this fast within a few days? And anyway, I made it through all the
Mm-hmm.
arrangements and, the funeral and everything. Every single day, all day long, I cried when I was alone,
Mm. Oh,
but
oh,
not
wow.
in
Okay.
front of other people,
Mm.
not in
Gotcha.
front of other people. And that wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Mm-hmm.
God carrying me,
That's right. That's right.
So my mind was, I got to be strong, got to be strong. Well, Miss Tiffany, another thing I remember about that incident is that my youngest brother
Mm-hmm.
was literally en route to Florida for a vacation. Oh, and I just now thought about the favorite place I like to
Wow.
go was somewhere
Yeah.
he was headed to.
Headed to.
Yeah, so it was June 1999, and
Okay.
but he was going to get ready to have a vacation, and I had to call him. I had to make a decision to
Yeah.
call him and ask him to come back home because of what had just happened, or to not tell him that that was it was, oh my gosh, that alone, on top of
Mm-hmm.
everything else, it was just so hard, so hard. But I had to tell him, and I tried in every
Yeah.
other way not to. And I just,
Right.
like, right now,
Right.
I'm feeling those emotions that I was feeling on the other end of that phone, about to tell him that, our mother is gone.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but now, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I was so devastated I couldn't go back to work. I tried to, after everything, after we had
Okay.
buried my mom and everything, I tried to go back to work. I literally couldn't function. I couldn't function.
Yeah. I
I
understand,
couldn't.
Lindy.
So
Yeah,
so I
hey,
left.
it's real.
Yeah, so I quit the job and, yeah, and but guess what? I
Mhm.
now have the responsibility of not only taking care of my 2 children that I have at the time, but I now have my 2 brothers and my foster brother
Gotcha.
to take
Yeah.
care of. And
Yeah.
again,
What was
I'm
that
not 30.
shift like? What was that like, Lindy?
Ooh, can we just say devastating on top of devastating?
Okay,
Just
yeah.
devastation. But in my heart and mind,
Mhm.
it was just what I'm supposed to do. It's
I
just
see.
what I'm supposed to do. But financially, it was very, very hard, you
Yeah, I
know.
bet.
But that's also kind of how it came to be that my younger brothers see me more as a mother figure than just a
Mhm.
sister.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like you mentioned it earlier, Lindy, of how, your mother was the oldest of her uh siblings and how she took care of them, and now you're finding yourself in this same role, only 20 some years old, with your own 2 children, and then having to shift from being I'm big sister to being I'm now a mother figure. That's a lot. How did you navigate that sibling relationship when you stepped into that role?
But to be honest with you, death can bring on a lot of different areas of grief.
Yes, it can.
So
Yeah, you're right.
so not only just the grief of losing our mother,
Mm-hmm.
and all that, the whole dynamics of what that brings about. But my brothers kind of, due to our financial situation,
Mm-hmm.
they kind of
Mm-hmm.
found themselves out there doing things that they shouldn't be doing.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
Never with my approval. It was
Uh-huh.
actually unbeknownst to me,
I see. I see.
but they found themselves getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And so here I am trying to navigate another area of life that I was totally unfamiliar with.
Uh-huh.
And so they went down some roads. And so of
Yeah.
course that was very, very hard on me as well. But we
Yeah.
survived it. Praise God. We survived
Uh-huh.
it. But a whole lot of prayer
Okay.
and,
Okay.
finding someone that I could talk to and call on for help and support.
Yeah.
That is how I made it through by the grace of God. And like I said, God carrying me, because they got in trouble almost immediately
Uh-huh.
after. So I'm talking within, a few months of my
Yeah.
mom's passing, sudden death.
Mm-hmm. We often hear about trauma responses to things. And, a lot of times when we are younger, teens or whatever, I don't know how old they were at the time, but, trying to probably help you mentioned financially and trying to, even handle that, especially as men, as a
Mm-hmm.
son,
Mm-hmm.
a black man at that, it can be difficult. And so it sounds like it's that trauma response. And then for you, the responsibility of now, like, having all that weight on your shoulders, the fact that you're able to recognize that it was nobody but God that carried you through that, time period. I'm sure now you look back and you're like, how did I make it? Oh, I was carried by God. But I'm sure at that time it was tough. So I'm happy you mentioned that, Lindy, because I feel like there's people out there that's dealing with this right now. It's 20, 30 having to raise their, siblings for whatever the reason may be. And so I
Right.
think that's a testament to people who may be listening that God will carry you through. So I really appreciate you for sharing that.
Yes,
Very
absolutely.
important.
Absolutely. There's no way I could have made it, without him. And one day, I mean, I became obsessed
Okay.
with wanting to know. I knew my mother was a believer, like she had been baptized and everything, when she was younger.
Okay.
So I knew she was a believer,
Mm-hmm.
but I was so obsessed with wanting to know the details of my mom's death and her last words, emotions, thoughts, and stuff. And it
Yeah.
almost took me out.
I understand it, Lindy. Hot. I understand it.
It
I
almost
do.
took me out. And I tell you what God did for me.
Okay.
The Holy Spirit allowed me one night while I was sleeping. The Holy Spirit allowed my mother to come to me, and we just talked and talked and talked. And I was able to ask her, you know, about her being okay. And she still just had the
Yeah.
biggest, happiest smile on her face. And we just talked and laughed forever and ever and ever. It was only then, after that,
Okay.
that I was able to let that obsession go. And so, I know the Bible speaks of, you know, the Holy Spirit and God visiting people in,
Oh yeah.
visions and dreams all the time. And I can
Definitely.
just personally testify for myself that
Yeah.
that again is how I made it over. That's how I could give some closure to that obsession,
Mm-hmm.
that even though I was still forging through,
Yeah.
because, I have reasons to live. I have my children and I have my brothers and
Uh-huh.
stuff. So I have reason to still be here, but it was hard. And
Yeah.
that was a significant part in helping me.
I'm glad you shared that with me, Lindy, because I'm going through that now, and you do it does become an obsession. So I'm happy to hear that moments will the time will come when I will even for myself be able to be I don't want to say okay or that I will
At peace,
be at peace. That's the
in the
perfect
midst,
word.
in the
Yeah,
midst
at
of.
peace. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because you wonder all that stuff. Like, what did they have on when this happened? What did I mean? What was their final moments like? I know some of it, but it's questions I want to ask, and so it can become definitely an obsession. I'm glad that's a good term. That's powerful. Um, and it also shows like, yeah, that's pretty intense for you to be devoting that much of your time, and then how she came to visit you. And I definitely that happens has happened to me a couple of times, and so I think it's more so of me being surrendering and being willing. I think that's always hard,
That's
to
it.
accept that. Acceptance is hard, that this person has visited you numerous times and said, I'm okay. Like you say, big smile, all of that stuff. Like they're literally here. You wake up and it's like, oh, this is not. But like you said, the key to what you just said is definitely you was at peace in
Exactly.
accepting that. So that's what kind of helped you through those moments of that
Oh,
obsession.
yes, ma'am.
I
Definitely.
like that.
Those moments and every other moment in my life,
Hmm.
where trials and tribulations and tests and, you know, um, traumatic experiences have happened,
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
lean on, and I'm so thankful for a
Hmm.
peace that surpasses all understanding. So even though
Yeah.
I'm never going to fully understand many, many things in life
Right.
and why now
Uh-huh.
and why
Hmm.
not, you know, um, but having that relationship with Christ, I don't know what people do who don't have a relationship with God or some higher being in, whatever faith they have. But without
Yeah.
faith, I don't know how people manage, how they truly cope.
Yeah. I don't either, Lindy. That's a really good point, because I know I'd be somewhere I'm not even here. Like, yeah, I don't see how they manage it either. With
Absolutely.
that being said, let me ask you this. Your mom, what's the greatest lesson you think your mom taught you? The greatest lesson that you took away from her?
Oh, wow. So one is love unconditionally. And
That's a
I
good
say
one.
that, Tiffany, because that's one lesson, and it's not something she ever said to me verbally,
Okay.
but what she did was she lived it.
She
She
lived it.
showed it to me. Now, when I was younger,
Hmm.
sometimes I would be so angry because I just witnessed someone disrespect her, you
Okay.
know,
Uh-huh. Right.
be it family, be it a significant other or whatnot, a
Hmm.
friend. It didn't matter. I've witnessed them all.
Okay.
And when I see someone hurting my mom,
Right.
I believe I used to come a little unglued.
I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm sure.
And I said,
Yeah. That's honest.
but she was always okay. And they would be back as if nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
And so that forgiveness, so,
Okay.
showing me what it looks like to forgive people and to love unconditionally, she taught by the way she lived her life. And then
Wow.
one of the other greatest things that she taught me, and this was verbally, she used to speak to people. And I remember having some type of issue for some reason or another, and I questioned her about speaking. And she said, speaking is a habit. We speak to people we don't even know all day, every day. We speak to people we don't even know. So don't let anyone change you, who you are.
Yeah.
If you want to speak to people, speak to them. If they don't speak back, that's on them. That's not on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I live to that to this day. And sometimes Miss Tiffany has gotten me in trouble because I genuinely don't hold grudges against anyone. I am quick to forgive anybody for anything, at any time, just immediately almost.
Gotcha.
And I thank God and I thank my mother for that genetic makeup. Because
Yeah.
living with unforgiveness, and you may have heard it said, but it's literally just like waking up every morning, drinking, poison out of a bottle, expecting somebody else to pass away from that.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, Lindy. I like the little illustration you used too with the water. That was
But it just
spiffy.
happened to be there, right?
Yeah. That was yeah, I like that.
But literally, it's
But you're
like that.
right.
I'm the one
Yeah.
poisoning myself.
That's
I'm
so
taking in the
true.
poison with the unforgiveness. And the other people are going on with their lives.
I've never heard it laid out like that, Lindy. That is very true. Yeah. That's a good way to. I like those quiet. Sound like she was a lot like Quentin. Honestly, like you said, you always understand like why you being nice to this person that done did this or that. Because I'm in. I'm not all the way there.
Right.
But I like the way you said that was some of the qualities that you took from her, and now you're able to use it. And you see the bigger picture, and then the forgiveness piece is just I like how you just laid that out. That was smooth.
Right. Well, glory to God for that, Miss
Yeah,
Tiffany.
and
Don't
and
take credit for anything.
I'm gonna tell you this. It's funny that you just said everything you said because my last guest I had on talked about I think he talked about his dad, and he was talking about how his dad led by example. And that was one thing you just said. It's so crazy how we're having this conversation that I just had a couple of weeks ago. And that's real, it was the actions, not what they said, but what they did. So thank you.
That's it.
Yeah.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Yes. Okay, so shifting gears a little bit. I know one thing when I talked to you, Lindy, and one thing I've never done on this podcast is talked about grief in an aspect of non-death related grief. Because as you mentioned earlier, grief comes in different waves. It could be a divorce, it could be a career, a job, loss of a job or a career or a dream. And I know that was one thing you wanted to explore today with me, and I'm grateful for that because we've never talked about that before. So I'm just gonna open the floor for you to talk about some non-death related grief and what grief has looked like, in your life, just different topics. So you feel free to flow as the spirit leads you.
Okay. Woo. Yeah, that is a tough one, right?
Yeah,
But
it is.
it's true, and it's something
It
that
is.
people deal with every single day, whether they know it or not,
That's
or
right.
realize that that's what's happening, is that they're
Mm-hmm.
grieving from a loss of something.
Yes.
And so going way back, even as a child, a small child, I experienced sexual assaults as a young child, and not realizing, understanding, but I didn't have a safe place. I didn't
I
have a safe
see.
place or safe space. Now, I say that because there were times when we were younger that my mom would, you know, go away for a little while. She
Mhm.
would go,
Mhm.
out of the state or whatnot, and we would be left with some family. And
Okay.
so, people that your mother trusts you to be with,
Right.
And so, at
Yeah.
any rate, there was some, I experienced as a child some repeatedly sexual assaults that I kept to myself. Um,
Gotcha.
the main reason is because I didn't want to be separated from my brother at the time. My oldest brother, was just he and I.
Mhm.
Um, and unfortunately, we had actually had some, what they call the Department of Children's Services or whatnot, actually come
Mhm.
visit that home and
Okay.
speak to me and my brother separately. And they had talked about if they took us away from that home, that there's no guarantee that we would ever see each other again, that we would be separated. Now that's
Gotcha.
rough.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
rough. So I knew what I was experiencing,
Mhm.
but was had no place to share it or escape it or get rescued
Yeah.
because of my love and not wanting to be separated from, my only sibling at the time.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
that alone was a grieving period. Grieving the separation from my mom, even though I know she'd come back,
Right.
she was
Right.
coming back. Life be life, and life didn't just start lifing.
Yeah. Oh, right. Right. You right. You right.
Life has always been
Mhm.
lifing.
Mhm.
And so my mother would, need those times to get away and stuff. And so for whatever reason
Yeah.
she would. And so that's some of it there.
Yeah.
Some of those grieving areas. And then as time goes on, and me and my brothers grew up in the same house for the most part with our mother, the four of us.
Okay.
Um, but then I had to go through um some other griefs,
Okay.
seeing my mother like physical abuse.
Okay.
And I vowed at 6 years old, because of what I was seeing, is that I would never, ever be
Mhm.
in a relationship where there's domestic violence.
Right. Yeah.
And I stood by that. But
Mhm.
that was another, just in a place when you want to do something, but you
Mhm.
can't do anything. You know, you're too
Yeah.
young,
Too
you know,
young.
for one thing. And
Yeah.
then, with my brothers and even my children, after my mom's death, I wanted to be able to provide and give everybody what they were used to getting,
Mhm.
but of
Mhm.
course I couldn't.
Mhm. Right.
And so just not having that support system at the
Uh-huh.
time to keep everybody together and on the right track. So just all kinds of different. And then our family hasn't been the same since my mom departed.
Yeah, I see.
Family
Yeah.
time, coming together.
Mhm.
Um, I really, really miss that even to this day.
Yeah, it changes. When that matriarch, it changes. It
Absolutely.
does.
And so I'm thankful and grateful that everybody now is, have come full circle, and
Mhm.
everybody, loves the Lord.
Yeah,
None
yeah.
of us are perfect or, saints, and
None of
I'm
us
definitely
are.
not claiming to be.
That's
Um,
right.
but I know where my help comes from,
Yeah.
and I understand the power, of forgiveness of sins, and that
Uh-huh.
we, are striving daily, for the Holy Spirit to lead and guide us until that blessed day that we'll leave this earth and be in
Right.
eternity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's just a few. I mean, you mentioned could be a divorce. I definitely went through a divorce.
Okay.
Ooh, Miss
Okay.
Tiffany.
Okay.
That was definitely a
I
grieving moment.
bet.
And I would
Yeah.
say, if there was ever a time
Mhm.
that mentally
Uh-huh.
and emotionally and spiritually, like just a whole combination of at a low place,
Yeah.
it was after my divorce. So going
Gotcha.
through that and trying to rediscover who I am. And so
Yeah.
through everything from, like I said, the uh, repeated sexual assaults as a child to a outright outright just a rape as a child, um,
Okay.
having those separation um, anxieties, if you will,
Yeah.
fear. The
Oh
enemy will
yeah.
come in and will plant fear any way he can and use
Yes.
anybody to do that. So, um, if even living in a state of fear is a space of grieving,
Yeah, it
you find
is.
yourself because you just don't know what to do sometimes
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
to do it. Um, but yeah, so everybody, like I said, now, everybody's good. Everybody is,
Mhm.
on their way to greater and better things. I choose to evolve after every situation. And I didn't realize that what I was doing. You
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
I thought I was just surviving. But
Yeah.
literally, God revealed to me because I choose not to give up,
Uh-huh.
because I choose to call out his name, to call upon him.
Mhm.
Because I choose to evolve, then my life is continually evolving.
Yeah.
So I'm changing and growing for the better through all of
Mhm.
those things,
Yeah.
and a lot of those things, sometimes you wonder, well, where was God in the midst of that?
True. That's true.
But God was right there.
Right there. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had to learn that both good and evil exist in this world, and they
Yep.
exist simultaneously.
They sure do. Yeah.
And then I said to myself, too, again, with understanding in time now,
Right. Right.
with
Right. Yeah.
understanding in
Yeah.
time,
Takes time. Yeah. Yeah.
and God. So I've understood that Jesus didn't do anything wrong to anybody,
Mhm.
as both, you know, human and spirit, but he was flesh here on this earth. He never done anything wrong to anybody. And
Right.
yet, what he suffered.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have to look and say, well, what about, are you better than Jesus?
Yeah. Who am I?
Yes. Who am I?
Yeah.
And so I've made it and I've survived each one of them. And then I've thrived to a new level each time through every hardship, through every grief, through every experience, that has tried to take me out.
Yeah. It shows your resilience, Lindy. You're a very
Absolutely.
resilient person, to overcome and be able to go through all those experiences. I mean, that was a lot you just talked about. Like you say, from sexual abuse to, witnessing domestic violence, and even your divorce. And I'm sure it's other things as well. Let me ask you this: I have two follow-up questions I want to ask
Okay.
you. Okay. We'll start with the stuff kind of in the beginning. So I'm sure you are now, I know you're a protector of, you were a protector of your siblings, when you had children. I'm sure you were protectors of them, even your grandchildren. Um, Being that you experienced a lot of that as a child, did that shift or did that, I want to say direct, did that, shift the way that you decided to raise your own children, in being that protector, in being, because I know sometimes when people go through stuff like that, they can be a little overprotective of their kids, because of course, you don't want your children to ever experience anything, that you may experience. So did that shift the way you raise them, or even with your grandchildren? Look, like, I know they're teenagers at this point, well, probably going to be grown. I think one of them's already graduated. The other one's graduating. I'm still looking at them as being little kids. But does that shift, like, the way you handle, let's say you handle them or raise your kids?
Ooh, okay. So with that question, that's a very good question, Miss Tiffany.
Okay.
A very good question. Somewhere along the way of You know, when I said with my mom's sudden death,
Yeah.
I found myself being the provider for my two children and my brothers.
Yes.
Well, all through my life, even as early as 8, 9 years old,
Uh-huh.
I used to have, my brothers on my hip.
I see.
And there was a time that they actually, my mom went away for a while again,
Mm-hmm.
and I kind of had to, as a teenager, I was
Okay.
18, and I found myself taking care, providing for my brothers and my two children and everything.
Yeah.
And I believe I came like overwhelmed, burnt out, like I need some freedom.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm a teenager. Yes, I'm a young adult now and I have children, but to take on all these responsibilities at even that age that I was taking on,
Yeah.
it was like I got to a point where I need some freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And I found myself falling into that same trap of trusting,
I see. Okay.
trusting, family.
Yeah.
Um, just wasn't any doubt in my mind. I can fully trust them 100%, with my children. And
Yeah.
so there were two people. My daughter would go to one person all the
Okay.
time, and my son would go to one all the time. And so I guess I wasn't very protective,
Okay.
of them like I
Okay.
should have been. And it's such a good
Mm-hmm.
and fair question because later on
Yeah.
in life,
Yeah.
I started wondering,
Mm-hmm.
has anyone ever,
I see. Okay. Gotcha.
ever?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so then that's when I became that overprotector, if you will.
Okay. Okay.
And I was like, I would always say to them, like question them, because I was never
Yeah.
asked, or,
I
question
see.
and talk
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
type of stuff. But
Right.
me, I would ask them and I would
Yeah.
assure them. I found myself doing this a lot,
A lot.
saying, I don't care who it is.
That's right.
I don't care who it is.
That's right.
At the time, even when my mom was there, I was like, I don't care if it's my mama. I don't care if it's, my daddy, my brother.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is,
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
anybody ever.
Right.
But I
Right.
never told them why.
I see.
I never
I
told
see.
them why. And a lot of
Wow.
times, sometimes as parents, of
Yeah.
course, it doesn't come with a handbook, a
No,
rule book or
no, it
anything.
don't. My mama always stated it don't come with a handbook. Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So you
yeah,
learn as you go.
yeah,
You
yeah.
learn as you go. Um, but then not too awful long ago, my daughter actually said that with her counseling,
Uh-huh.
group therapy, single therapy, and stuff like that,
Yeah.
she started to replace some of that in her head, to recall some of that.
Gotcha.
And she was like, they better helped her understand
Uh-huh.
why I was frequently doing that.
Doing that. I see. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. And so that
Yeah.
opened up a
Yeah.
door too for us to, talk and stuff. And
Yeah, I
and then,
bet.
yeah. So yes, ma'am.
Yeah, that I like the way you were honest, Lindy, in that, and then how it's double back where you're now able to have those conversations, with your daughter, and just because then I'm sure that was like a weight probably kind of lifted off of your shoulder because I think when things like that happen, sometimes we want to act like it didn't happen, but then it's like, well, why is mom asking me this all the time? And then that
Exactly.
comes up, then it's like, okay, it probably freed you of some things like, oh, like as a kid, I just couldn't tell you, I can only share so much, but this is why.
Right. Right.
I'm glad you mentioned all that, and you mentioned about groups. My second question to everything you had said was through all that you went through, even like from the childhood stuff, even on up to adulthood with divorce and things like that. Did you ever go to therapy? I know therapy is a big conversation I have with people on this platform, but I just want to know, did you ever go or any type of groups or anything like that?
I did not. I did not,
Okay.
Tiffany. I tell you what, I
Hmm.
made myself available
Okay.
to hear the word of God. like all the
Okay.
teachings. I would make myself available. Anytime there was any type of retreat going
Uh-huh.
on where I am going to be spiritually fed, and
Gotcha. Yeah.
especially women's retreats as well. So I went to all types of retreats, for spiritual growth and development, and just being able to learn how to cope through
Mm-hmm.
situations. And but women's retreats,
Yeah.
sisters retreats, those were places where it was safe. And so you got to be in groups and
Yeah.
hear the
Mm-hmm.
stories of others, you know, their
Yeah.
testimonies, and even what they may have been going through right then. And then collectively, we can all, support and uplift and give encourage and hope to others because of what we've made it through and where we're standing now.
Yeah. I like that, Lindy. You
And
you invested in yourself.
I did,
Yeah.
absolutely. And Miss Tiffany, that is what we have to do. Not, well, we
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do anything, right? But
Right.
that's a benefit that we should all take advantage of. We should all
Yes.
see the value and the significance of pouring into ourselves and investing
Mm-hmm.
in ourselves. That means mind, body, soul, collectively, collectively. Um,
Yeah.
like I said, there's just so many other things I'm thinking of that where
Yeah.
I would get down. But I tell you what, I prayed with all the situations in my life. It has kept me humbled and
Mm-hmm.
praying and hopeful, and me seeing a lot of my prayers answered.
Oh, wow.
I have definitely witnessed a lot of my prayers being answered. And I celebrate in, knowing when other people's prayers are answered as well. So I'm the type of person, and not by my choosing,
Uh-huh.
but by design.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If you hurt, I hurt.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't have to know you. If you hurt, I hurt.
Yeah.
If you are happy and you're celebrating something, I'm genuinely happy and celebrating
Right.
with you and for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just having that can be a curse and a blessing.
Uh-huh.
And I say that because when you have a lot of empathy, like I do, sometimes it can get overwhelming taking on, the heartache and pain and hurts of others. And so you have
Yeah.
to find that balance as well, or you will
Mm-hmm.
find yourself in a space and place of grief,
Yeah.
for not living your life and or for how hard somebody else's life and situation is and how unfair it seems.
Yeah. That's true,
But yes,
Lindy.
but definitely making myself available to always to hear the word and to be around people who
Mhm.
are there to evolve, to
Yeah.
get from where they are to the next stage in life, to
Yeah.
that next level.
So you really poured into your own into yourself. And
Mhm.
it's really confirmation everything you're saying, Lindy, because someone recommended me go to this serenity retreat in Arizona, and I was like, I'm not gonna go. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna go. And so I'm
Okay.
glad you're mentioning just how beneficial you, number one, choosing to pour into yourself and invest in yourself. And I'm going to go on these women conferences, retreats, summits, whatever that looked like for you. It's letting me know that I'm making the right decision, even though I'm scared to go on this, and how it can really help me with being in a room with people who you don't know. They don't know nothing about you, and hearing other people's testimonies. So I'm glad you just shared that with me personally. That's a good thing to really go to. And if you have anything come up that you hear about, let me know because I may
Yes,
be
ma'am. Yes,
interested in
ma'am.
going. You're already in the vein of this. So,
Yes. And I'll tell you what, Miss
yeah.
Tiffany, um, to be honest,
Mhm.
one of the retreats that I attended several years in a row, the
Okay.
very first time that I went to that retreat was a blessing from your mother
Oh, wow.
because
Okay.
something had come up where she couldn't go. And
I
at the last minute, of
see.
course, she reached out to me and asked if I would be, interested in going.
Interested.
So I
Yeah.
was at work and I remember sitting there and
Hmm.
thinking, you know, I can't. It's last minute. I have a
Yeah.
job.
Right.
I work for some people. I can't just, it
Yeah.
was like next week, you know what I'm saying?
Next
Like,
week.
you know, maybe even a few days, But
Yeah.
I was like, but I prayed about it and
Uh,
I really, really I needed to be there at
needed
that
to be
time in my
there.
life. And I went.
Yeah.
And one of the sessions that I went into, um, it's a Christian psychologist, a
Okay.
talk therapist. And I didn't know that at the time. I learned all this later.
Hmm.
But she was a presenter, and she was talking about unforgiveness in this particular setting. And she had written a couple of books. She was an author as well.
Hmm.
But just being there and hearing her say some things that she said changed the trajectory of my life.
Wow.
And again, I kept going every year,
Yeah.
each year I kept going back to this. But when you go seeking,
Hmm.
you'll find, and you'll find exactly what it is you need to evolve to your next level, you know,
Yeah.
to keep taking that step forward.
Going with expectation, where you want something, so you're not just going just to be going, but going with expectation in your heart, knowing that something is gonna pour into you. Yeah, I like you're so evolved, Lindy. You're
Well, to
so
God be the glory.
evolved.
I
I'm
try
so
in all
happy.
areas. I do try in all areas. I do.
Yeah.
I do try.
It's important because, like, there's something I never really. I mean, I just number one, I'm frugal, so I don't like spending no money. So my life has been typically, I just go along with the flow of things, and whatever happens, happens. We pay money, get take care. We do whatever we gotta do to keep it moving.
Yeah,
So I'm the type where I don't typically. Honestly, I don't really. I don't want to say I don't invest in myself, but me going to
right,
a conference, having to get a plane ticket, having to do all this, like not in my budget, not something
right,
I feel like I need, but at this point in my life has taught me a whole lot over this past year. And I
right.
know I don't have a choice but to invest in myself at this point. Because if I
That's
don't
it.
invest in myself, that's what I have to do. You have to feed yourself. And it sounds like you've really come to figure that part out of how pouring into yourself, how important that is. So I appreciate you for sharing that
You're very,
with
very
our group. And
welcome.
yeah, if you got places, anything coming up, you let me know if I can
Okay,
go.
I will. I
If I
will.
ain't got a mandatory work thing, I'll definitely try and be there. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely.
but let's see. You answered a lot of things I had, Miss Lindy.
Yes,
Let me ask you this. We talked a lot about, how, God has just been instrumental through that whole process with you. And that's how you were able to kind of navigate your grief and move forward. Um, and even like reclaiming your hope. So let me ask you this. What are some daily practices that you do just to keep yourself grounded or rooted or just, to be ready for the day and be able to move forward in life? We all have different things that we do to get ourselves up and going for the day, whether that's in the mornings, during the day, or night. What does your regimens look like, if you don't mind sharing?
I don't mind sharing at all. Let me not pretend like I've been, you know, that I have had a regimen, this whole time because I
Yeah.
have not. But one thing that I do every day throughout the day and have,
Okay.
for life, even
Yeah.
when I wasn't attending church,
Okay. I
okay?
see. Okay.
Because um, just even looking back to when I got pregnant at an early age,
Yeah.
you can't listen to what everybody say because everybody is not on the same level or the right level of
Hmm.
spiritual growth. And
That's
so
right.
sometimes people will say things to you to hurt you,
Yeah.
even from the church.
Oh, yeah.
And
Mm.
so for me, when I found myself, young and pregnant and was loving church, someone said to me, about, well, until you do this and do that and yada, 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 then
Hmm.
you're not really this or that and you won't be, just all this stuff they said.
Mhm.
So I stopped going to church for a while. And ironically, Tiffany, God used my daughter
Okay.
to get me back in church. And then I've been there ever since. I've never strayed away since God used my daughter, and He clearly used her, and I knew He did.
Yeah.
Um, because I wasn't going to church, and she started going to church with some friends from the Boys and Girls Club. And
Okay. I
yes, and then
see.
so one day she
Yeah.
came home and she said to me, "Mama, I almost went." She was like, when the preachers stand up and they say you can come down, and that thing when I almost went today. I almost went today.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was so excited, and she, we talked about it, whatever. That very next Sunday,
Uh-huh.
I was in church with her, and I've never left the church again.
Wow. That's amazing.
And it's because I got to thinking, God was letting me recall these things. She was 13. Well, guess when I accepted Christ? I was 13.
13.
How was I at the church? It wasn't because my mother was at the church. It was because I was going to church with a cousin.
Oh, wow, Lindy.
And I remember when I almost went a couple of times, but I kept holding on to the pew and I didn't go. And then one day I couldn't hold on to the pew anymore and I made that walk.
Had to go.
So all of that came back to my remembrance when
Mm-hmm.
she comes home telling me that she almost went. And I said, she will never make that walk and I not be there to witness it.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like I said, things happen and you shift and you grow, you know. And so for me, what I do now is
Mm-hmm.
every day, soon my eyes open up. Unless something is really, really, really been stressing me, and it might get there first. But I
Okay.
immediately
Okay.
shut it down and I say,
Gotcha.
Lord, I thank you. Dear God, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you. I just keep on just saying, I thank you,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm truly thankful and grateful to have opened my eyes and to know that I'm still here
Yeah.
and that I have another chance to do better than I did the day before. I have an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to pour into someone else. And so number one, giving thanks soon as my eyes open.
Okay.
And then I've started where I'm on a prayer call with other believers at 6 a.m. every morning, 7 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then at 8 o'clock, I'm also on a prayer call, and it's 6 days a week.
Okay.
And so I implemented those two things in my life, and
Mm-hmm.
they are awesome. And Miss Tiffany, I got to go back. You
Okay.
asked me if I ever did therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
God just said, hello, hello. So I reached out to a professional therapist, counselor, who is also like a life coach and an empowerment coach.
Okay.
So when
Okay.
I reached out to her, I wasn't reaching out to her for therapy.
Okay.
I was reaching out to her for, as an empowerment coach,
Gotcha.
okay, to help me get to some levels I was trying to get to.
Get to. Okay. Okay.
And when
Makes
she
sense.
asked me to start telling her about me,
Mm-hmm.
some of the things that I poured out in just talking, it turned into some therapy.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah.
So I
I think.
did. My
Yeah.
sessions turned into therapy sessions.
Sessions. Yeah. Yeah.
They did.
I think mentorship is important. And I
Mhm.
think that, like you say, you were seeking somewhere, one to just help you, with life in that moment and to help you get to that next level. And I think that God definitely places people in our lives to do that. And in the mix of those conversations, you can definitely get therapy dropped in, here and there, not even really recognizing it. It's just like, this is a mentor and this is who I'm seeking a little bit of guidance from in a way with life. Like I say,
Right.
life coaches. And
Right.
so that makes sense. That makes sense,
Yeah,
Lindy.
she did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
It turned into, she was like, we can't move any further because you
Yeah.
don't understand that those things that you
Yeah.
never addressed and you never
Addressed.
got therapy for is impacting where you're trying to go and get to,
That's right.
but you can't
Mm-hmm.
quite get there all the way yet. You keep finding
Yeah.
the same stumbling block. Let's discover the root of the cause here.
Yeah. That's true. That is very true. It's
Yeah,
kind of it's a phrase, you can't heal what you don't reveal.
that's it. That's right.
And
That's right.
and that's a real thing. So it makes sense. You have to kind of unpack different situations you've been through so you can, instead of just placing a band-aid on it and trying to just go on with life, it's gonna keep popping back up if you don't deal with certain things. So it's something I'm
Absolutely.
definitely learning. So that's
Absolutely.
very true. That is
And it'll
very true.
manifest itself. Everything that we've ever gone through in life will
Hmm.
manifest itself in one way or another
Yeah.
in the decisions we make and how we move about and live our lives, and things that we won't even take a chance on
Yeah.
in life. We won't even consider or open up our, vulnerability to, and we don't even realize it's connected to some stuff that could have happened way, way back when.
That's true. Oh yeah. That is very true.
So,
Very true.
so absolutely. Miss Tiffany,
Yeah.
I know you may have another question for me. Not
Yeah.
sure what kind
Yeah.
of time. I know time goes so fast,
I know.
but
No, we wrapping up actually. Yep, we are
okay,
wrapping up, Lindy. The main. I got two more questions for you, and I want you
okay,
to promote what you got going on. So no, we are right on schedule. If
okay.
you could have a song be your life story, what would that song be, and why?
I give myself away,
Okay,
and
that's a
I
good one.
cannot sing, so your viewers might get they might get enjoyment out of this. But
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's a
you're
good
familiar
song.
with the song. But my
So you can
life
use
is
me.
not my
Mm,
own. To you I belong. I give myself away.
that's right,
You
Lindy. You
know,
need to be up in the choir, Lindy.
let-
You carry tune. You did good.
but
But that's a real song, and when you think about the lyrics, that's powerful.
it is. But that is it for me. And maybe the next time you listen to it or hear it, just think of me there, because that's
Yeah.
literally that's it for me. And then, Lord, I thank you. Lord,
Okay.
I thank you. When the devil thought he had me, I sure got away. You know
Yeah.
what I'm
That's
saying? Lord, I thank you. I thank you for your love and grace. I just, honey, look into the
yeah.
the east, the west, north, south, all that. Sometimes we just can't find nobody. You know what I'm saying? We can't find
Yeah.
nobody to help us fight a fight.
That's right.
You know?
That's two good ones, Lindy. It
So
definitely
yes,
is. Yeah. Yeah.
Lord, I thank you, and I give myself
Give
away.
myself away.
Miss
Well,
Tiffany.
I do want you to and I got some words I want to share with you before we get off, but tell the people what you do, Lindy. I know you're into the finance world, so if you want to promote anything you have going on right now, feel free to do so.
All right. Well, thank you, Miss Tiffany.
Yeah.
One of the things, a huge movement, a huge initiative that I'm part of right now is, they say by 2054.
Yeah.
So we just look 25 years from now, 25, to
Yeah.
29
Mhm.
years from now. We're looking at no wealth left in the Black community.
Wow.
There is, if you don't know, there is $84.4 trillion changing hands here in America.
Mm.
$84.4 trillion. I want someone to, do the math at some point and just
Uh-huh.
look at what 1% of $84 trillion is. Now
Wow.
it's changing hands, and it's already in process, and it's going to continue for the next 15 to 20 years. But they're
Mhm.
saying we, who have a racial wealth gap right now, that our
Mhm.
wealth in our communities is going to be depleted
Gotcha.
by 2054. So one of the big
Mm.
initiatives or movement is we are on a mission to help 1 million people, families, businesses have at least $1 million plus in assets and wealth insurance.
Okay.
Now, when I say wealth insurance, some people have death insurance
Mhm.
because no one ever benefits from it until someone passes away.
Right.
Some of
Right.
us realize that there is something called life insurance, and it's really can be used while you are alive and pour in millions and millions of dollars into your generation, to your bloodline. So there's a big
Mhm.
movement right now, a millie with a millie. So 1 million
Okay.
people with $1 million. And if you don't mind, I'll send you a link or something
Yeah.
that you can share.
Yes. Yeah. We'll
Um,
put it in the description of this video, Lindy. Yeah. Anything. Yeah. We can definitely put it in there so people
yeah,
can plug in and get to reach out to you in the event they, are interested and want to know more about what you do and all of that. Yeah. We can definitely
absolutely,
put some
absolutely.
information in the box for sure.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And that will help pump trillions of dollars back into our community. And we will not face that racial wealth gap that they're saying will be depleted for us.
Gotcha.
We're
Yeah.
here and I just want to be found
Uh-huh.
pleasing unto God. I want to
Yes.
be found pleasing unto God and trusted by people.
Yeah.
That's my daily heart's desire.
Gotcha.
And I
Yeah.
feel like if I'm pleasing to God,
Uh-huh.
then I have to be good to people.
Yeah.
And when I'm good to people and loyal to people, then people will be able to trust me and know that I'm here to empower, to enhance their lives in any way I can. I'm
Yeah.
actually, a good connection specialist.
Oh yeah, you are. You
I can
connected to
connect
everything.
people. I can
Everything.
connect
All the
people.
things. All the things. Well, Lindy, I really appreciate you being on today. And I did want to say this to you. In my hard, toughest moments, after Quinn was murdered, uh, I definitely consider you one of my spiritual mothers. And I don't know if you know that or not, but I want to take the opportunity to tell you that because I really appreciate, you coming down to my parents' house and sitting with me and praying with me. And I still have that letter you wrote me. And I read that every night. Affirmations to just remind me that I'm important, to remind me, that Tiffany, you're going to get through this. And I want to say that publicly that I really, really, really appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And I always tell mom, I said, Miss Lindy, she got something special. She a prayer warrior. She I think she got some Pentecostal up in her. I said, that's the kind of women I'm used to being around when I go to church with Quint. So
Praise
I
God.
just want to tell you, I really appreciate you. And I appreciate the time that you came down to the house and sat with me and prayed with me and mama. Like I really appreciate it. And like I say, you are one of my spiritual mothers and I need that right now in my life. I need all the support I can possibly get. So I appreciate it.
Amen. Thank
So,
you. You are so welcome. And I'm very
yes,
humbled.
yes,
I'm fighting back
yes.
tears right now,
I
but
know, I know.
that
I
I
said
am so
I,
grateful.
I said I'm gonna save it to the end.
I'm very, very grateful and humble. And there's an author
Yeah.
that I met recently. She
Okay.
she's also a preacher, and she's gone through
Mm,
a lot. A
yeah.
lot of things when she due to loss
Okay.
due
I
to
see.
loss of a loved
Yeah.
one. And
Yeah.
so I won't steal the thunder, but this is something that I read in her book that I finished reading, and I
Okay.
resonated with it so well. So
Okay.
I want to just say right here, she says that, you know, her hope for this book, her story, is to help others to understand that death cannot be ignored by us or
Hmm.
logically reasoned by us or for us. Death cannot be ignored by us or logically
Mm,
reasoned for us. She says, you know, you have to do what you have to do to get through the going through. You have to do what you have to do to get through the going through. Don't rush the process. We're constantly transforming, and death definitely causes a transformation in our lives. But know that there's a brighter side. So keep pushing.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Lindy. I really appreciate it. So
Amen.
we shall sign off with that being said. One thing Quinn used to always say is all is well. So I end every episode with all is well.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Lindy. I appreciate it. And y'all have a good week. And we look forward to seeing you guys on the next podcast. Bye. We hope that today's episode has encouraged you and helped to identify strategies to navigate your grief and begin the process of moving forward in life. Grief Tribe Healing Vibes. What were some key takeaways from today's episode? Drop a comment below and remember to like, follow, and subscribe.